Hello everyone. Nice to see so many of new faces as well as people we already know. So yes, this morning is quite an exciting session because we are going to be talking to people who have made work for BBC The Social, and we're also going to be talking to one of their executive producers to discover a bit more about how to apply and what they're looking for. So I just wanted to introduce you to our speakers. I'm just going to do in the order on my screen. So on my right, I've got Bircan Birol. Bircan is a Glasgow-based filmmaker who's done quite a few shorts for BBC The Social. We also have Camelia Cazan, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, Camelia, and also a Glasgow-based filmmaker. And they'll both tell us a bit more about how they came across The Social and their experience of working with the platform. And but first, I'm just going to ask Anthony Browne, who is the executive producer for BBC The Social, to maybe tell us a bit more about the platform and about himself.
Great. Hi everyone. Thanks for inviting me today. I thought it might be useful if we started with just a wee kind of trail. We've got a minute and a half trail just of some of the content from The Social in case you're not familiar. So I will play that in, hopefully seamlessly. There we go. Everyone see that?
Here's to the next decade. Hopefully we won't all be underwater. Underwater.
Really understand it until you actually see it.
The crisis killed 3 billion animals.
The most drastic limits to our lives ever seen in living.
Moment of national emergency.
Stay at home.
Joblessness has jumped and is set to surge.
Tens of thousands of people have joined anti-racism demonstrations across the UK.
A group of people were holding a gender reveal party. You and I.
And welcome to another one of these shitting talks.
Do you want to do this or no?
I'm being ambushed left, right and centre.
God, I honestly can't decide.
Believe it or not, I'm not having orgies all the time.
Say curly whirly.
Curly whirly?
I'm not a racist, but it's like the national anthem of racists.
We're in this together and that we need to work together.
Nobody remembers what it was like to be one with nature.
Will you talk about that soft side?
What's your artistic meltdown?
Well, not just any books.
Porn books.
Scotland! Yes!
So that is a very kind of short snapshot of the type of content that goes out on The Social. We cover everything from documentaries, short documentaries, right through comedy, music. Basically, the conversation is, what are you into? What would you like to say? And then we help develop you to say that. So The Social's been around for 5 years now. And it came about, I joined the BBC as an executive producer of social media, and it was about trying to engage with young people across Scotland. And I kind of partnered up with a couple of colleagues, Muslim Alam and Louise Thornton, and the three of us got together and thought, what could we create to kind of engage young people on a daily basis? And we know that young people are watching less television than ever before. We know that they're doing things online on social media platforms. So what we wanted to do was try and engage with those people to try and enable them and give them a chance to feel represented on the national broadcaster. So we kind of did a pilot over a number of months with young people, finding out what they would like to, how we would like to build this model, how to make it work. And then we got a pilot project from the BBC, and then we've grown from there. So a lot a lot of the aims of the social is about breaking down the barriers to get involved in the media, to try and make it like the BBC from the outside can feel like a huge sort of impenetrable organisation, but we try to have conversations with people, try to let them see that we're just people trying to make good stuff, and we need you to be able to have a voice, and we have a platform that we can help enable you and get you to a wider audience, and then help you move through into the media if that's what you want to do. So we've had people that have been with us making short videos on the social for a number of years, and that's cool. But we've also had people that have came to us then with ideas for TV programs or for podcasts, and we've been able to help them develop them, pitch them in, and then go on to make TV series. So we've had somebody who kind of was developed through with us, who was an Instagrammer, who then made some videos with us, and now is on their third series of TV as a presenter writer on BBC Alba. We've got stuff that has went through onto kind of prime time. We've had people appearing on podcasts on Radio 4, 5 Live, right across the BBC. We try and, as soon as we kind of get involved, we don't talk about trying to commission individual pieces of content. We talk about trying to commission individuals. So we want to build a relationship up with people. We want to try and help them say what they want to say. But then we also want to facilitate them moving through and giving them a voice on different platforms. We have a huge focus on diversity. We know that there's an ongoing conversation about increasing the diversity through into the media industry. So that's one of our big drivers, about trying to reach into communities that feel like they don't feel represented, and to give them a voice, and to try and make sure that everyone, like the BBC has universally in the UK, everyone has to pay a licence fee. So we're duty bound to represent everyone. And we kind of, one of our missions is to try and hear from everyone if we possibly can. So that's, like I said before, I could talk about this for hours, but that's a very, very quick potted history, and I'll pass on to some of our contributors to let them, they're the important ones in the mix.
Well, Anthony, just before we do that, could you maybe tell us a bit more how people can submit their ideas, get in touch with you, and also sure. We had a question. Well, you answered about diversity, but a question from someone who's saying that the target audience is very young. But do you accept submissions from people who are maybe a bit slightly older?
Yeah, we accept submissions. Well, the word submissions is probably something that's worth unpicking. It's not like a user-generated thing. You don't go off and make the content and send it through to the social to publish. Everything that we do on the social is commissioned, because we don't want people going off and spending weeks or hours or days making stuff, and then we'd say, oh, so we don't want to publish that. So we're built that in from the very beginning. So the conversation goes, I'd like to make this type of thing. Then we help shape that, and then at that point we will say, yeah, that sounds like something that would work on the social, and then they go off and make it. We try and make sure that people don't go and spend a long time, because we can't afford to pay for a long thing. If people have got ideas which are long, we can help them pitch it to other commissioners that will have bigger pots of money. But so that's why we kind of focus on like 1, 2, 3 minute things, because we try to help develop through that. So how to get involved? We commission new content on a daily basis. On our website, if you go to bbc.co.uk/thesocial, you can see a whole list of all our contributors, and you can click in and get to see the type of content that we make. There's also a form on there in the contact us, and it will ask you some basic questions, just kind of what your ideas are, what you would like to make, a little bit of your background. And then that goes into a thing that we have every week called the download. So our team meet and talk about everyone who's come through that list. And then we will give feedback back to people. So some people, it might be feedback saying, that's really good, but we've actually kind of covered that, or maybe you should try looking at this area, or that sounds like a great pitch, let's have a conversation and see where we can take it from there. So we try to, obviously some weeks we get huge amounts of people getting in touch, so we try to get back to as many people as we can, as quickly as we can, but it's an ongoing thing, and I think we've developed over 580 people in the last 5 years. So we do try to get around everyone, but so yeah, that's the best way to get involved, to outline your plans there, and then one of the producers, if it's an idea that we think we will be able to help you with, then they'll be in touch.
Great, thanks. And in terms of the commission, do you have a set amount for the commission, or does it depend on the idea, and it's something you discuss with the filmmakers?
Yeah, do you mean payment wise? Yeah. So budget wise, it's a small fee. There's no getting away from that. We try and kind of build in a lot of development with it too. So, and you can also give you access to like some of the BBC Academy things if that's something that you want to get into. But yeah, we kind of, the way that we've tried to do this as fairly as possible is, I remember quite early on we had a conversation with a graffiti artist who was saying that he wanted to do a time lapse of him painting a big mural, and I said to him, like, how big, like how much would a mural normally cost? And he said, well, if I was doing a wall like this size, it would be maybe a couple of grand or something. I was like, right, okay, so how about doing a wall this size? And then like you could do 10 of them or 15 of them, and then we'll be able to pay you to build up the cash. But like what we need is you to be able to focus your idea smaller. So for example, another example of that is we had somebody come to us with a sort of sitcom pitch, which was very sort of multiple characters, multiple actors, loads of sets and stuff. And we're just like, well, that's completely out of our realm of possibility. If you want to pitch that, then we can put you in touch with commissioners that would be able to kind of hear those pitches. But if you want to work with us, let's have a think about how we could do this differently. So essentially we boiled it down to, it was the relationship between two characters was at the center of the sitcom. So then we came up with a creative idea of what about if we made those two people work in a cloakroom in a nightclub? So you've got the little cloakroom window, and then we just have a fixed camera pointing at that, and then they had a laptop in the cloakroom, and that gave a separate perspective that you could cut between. And that was the simple setup, because we were saying, well, the real nub of this idea is the dialogue between these two characters. So everything else is just kind of stuff. So if we take all that out, then you take all that expense out, but you still get the really interesting dialogue. And then we were able to kind of do that as a pilot, and then we were able to say to other commissioners, look, this is the person that wrote this, and is there something else that they can go on to do? So it's all about scaling the idea to what we can afford to pay people, and the producers will be able to help people do that as well along the way.
Thank you. I'm sure people will have more questions for you, but I'm just going to move back into the realm of documentary and to our other two guests. So, Bircan, you're a documentary filmmaker. We know each other because you've done a Bridging the Gap film with SDI. I was wondering, could you maybe tell us a bit more about how you discovered the social, what drew you to the social to make short documentaries, and what your experience has been?
Yeah, it was right before the Bridging the Gap, maybe late 2017 and early 2018. I saw their post on social media, and they were calling for new contributors, and I wasn't sure what BBC Social was. I checked their content, and I saw there were like couple of documentary series like into it. And I thought, okay, this is good. I can make something like that. Because first I thought it's just, sketches and small digital ideas, but I wasn't sure if if they were looking for documentaries. So that time also all my experience was a little bit video journalism, like video activism, and not based in Scotland. So also I wasn't sure if they're going to accept my ideas because there's almost no experience in Scotland. So I wrote them a introduction, just, hello, my name is Bircan. I made films, but maybe not that good. And here are the links. I didn't care like how beautiful they are. I just put the links and a little bit talk about my ideas briefly. And I said why I want to make this. I think it is important to also put your personal connection there. Like and that time my idea was, not that time, all the time, I want to make films about refugees and immigrants who came to Scotland and start a new life here. And I thought, oh, maybe it's just too dark for dramatic for BBC The Social content, and I wasn't expecting any answer. And they answered back to me, and I was quite surprised. They invited me to the BBC Glasgow building. There's a name for it, I don't remember. And I went there, it was too intimidating. I was like, oh, that's big building. What am I doing here? I absolutely had no idea. I printed ideas. I didn't know how to pitch. I was so nervous. And it was amazing. There were like one producer and one researcher helped me first. Like I was really nervous, and they were like so friendly, and they helped me to develop my ideas, talk about a little bit what I wanted to do, what they're producing, what kind of formats they're looking, because it's not exactly TV format, but also BBC got their own, not rules. I don't know how to call them, but I didn't know about them. And it was quite, I felt like it's like some sort of like schooly feeling as well. And so they said yes, but they weren't sure because I didn't make anything about with them. Okay, let's start with one video because I had lots of ideas. And we started, and actually it was like a school. At that time I didn't know how to pitch, how to write, like log line. This is the character. I have an access, kind of basic documentary things, and I learned doing that, and it actually helped me with like my my application with Bridging the Gap, because it was my first like actual writing for ideas. And I started to make, and I had really, I think I should add this because some people ask about diversity. I had some concerns about, okay, I'm making something that I have very like ethical concerns, because I really didn't like the representation of refugees or immigrants in the media. And I told the BBC Social, hey, I don't want to make, oh, our life was so bad and we came to Scotland and everything is so good kind of stories. I want to make something empowering, something positive, something, strong. And I would like to change this perspective. And they were so lovely. And I made a couple of nice, positive, amazing stories with them. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. So how many films did you end up making with The Social?
5 or 6, I think. Most of them were about these immigration stories. Then I made one that actually aired on TV, and I think you should also talk about that, Anthony, because I wasn't expecting that. I made for digital, and then somehow it was on telly. It was about like this amazing young man who was talking about accessibility in Edinburgh. Yeah, but I couldn't continue because I then got this Bridging the Gap commission, and I found myself in a new world. So it was a nice school for me. I sometimes got ideas and I still pitch, but it was a really, really nice and welcoming start for a new filmmaker, I would say.
Thank you, Bircan. So Anthony, one of the shorts ended up being aired on.
Yeah, we are constantly looking for ways, like I kind of mentioned, they were looking development routes for people. One of the things, obviously, we have a new BBC Scotland channel. Well, it's not that new now, it's 2 years old, we're still calling it new. We have a BBC Scotland channel, which is on every evening. And one of the things that we can do is take the content that comes from us and be able to use that as a sort of calling card to commissioners. And one of the things that we've developed, we've kind of taken people and developed them through into little pilots just about them or the subject. But we also do a thing called the Social Presents, where we sort of make collections of the content coming through. So we've done things on disability stories, we've done stuff on like outdoor life. So we can take themes, and we use all the filmmakers that have come through the social, and you get an extra payment as well, and it gets to go out on the television, and it goes on to iPlayer. So it helps increase our reach for the content, and it gets everyone a credit, which they can also put in their CV. And I think that's one, like, it was great to hear Bircan talking about that. Like like I come from a working class background. I didn't know anyone at the BBC before I started there. I worked in marketing my whole life. So one of the big things for me is to try and help other people from different backgrounds get into the BBC. It's kind of keeping like, I feel sometimes like I broke in and I've got to keep the ladder down for everyone else to come in. But that's, and the BBC is getting much more aware of this, sort of breaking down this sort of veneer that people think about it. So it's great to hear people saying that they kind of came and had a great experience coming in, because that's what it's all about.
Well, Camelia, could you tell us a bit about your experience, and about yourself as well?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Camelia. So I moved to Scotland because I wanted to start making films, and at the time, this was about 5.5 years ago, at the time I was really interested in fiction and narrative scripts, you know, like making my own thing. So I ended up making a few I ended up starting off by making a feature film, an amateur feature film, which, you know, as the first project, it was probably a good idea to start off with a feature, but it really taught me how to just kind of work really efficiently and quickly. And then I made a few shorts, and I was going to these amateur filmmaker clubs, and basically I was kind of trying to look for a way to just break into the industry and kind of start making actual professional films rather than just like in my free time. So one of my friends that was going to, well, actually the founder, Ryan Passy, is working at the BBC, The Social, and he was a researcher, and I think he's still working. I hope he's still working. I've not seen him in like a year. So, but yeah, so he was working there. So he told me about it, but like, I just didn't really do much about it. And then eventually I just remember one day I just like messaged the BBC Social Facebook page, and I got a response back that was like an automated form. So I just clicked on the form, and, you know, I kind of wrote a few things about the films that I made, and I added a couple links, and I really didn't expect anything to come of it. But then Anna Fenton, who was a producer at the time, she messaged me, and she basically, like, she was like, oh, would you like to do documentaries? I think you should do documentaries. I was like, oh, wow, I never thought of documentaries, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. And basically that's what happened. And now I'm never going back to fiction. So, you know, it was a great pivot, because I really like wouldn't have, I was not, you know, documentaries were not in my realm of interest at the time. So just for Anna to see that and be like, you know, actually, I think you'd be really good at this, I was like, really grateful, because now it's just completely changed the trajectory of my career. So yeah, so once I started working with Anna, I think she actually left really soon after I came. She went on a bike trip, and then I started working with someone else, and I made like a bunch of films because I was really keen to just kind of learn how to make documentaries. And that's the point of the platform, is to just kind of teach filmmakers how, and not just filmmakers, but also talent and just kind of basically grow their experience and just their talent. So I was doing a lot of films. I think maybe it was, I would say, at least 20 or something. So that was pretty much how I got, and I loved working with the social. Everyone was very receptive to my ideas all the time. Even when my ideas were pretty rubbish, they were like, oh, maybe we can do this and that, and just kind of morph them into something better. So it was always just like a really productive back and forth with the people, whoever I worked with, because they were like, you know, producers that would like step up and just do something else, or new researchers or new producers, and whoever I worked at the social was always like really helpful in like kind of making things work for everyone, if it makes sense. So that's pretty much my experience. Sorry if that was a little long.
And could you maybe tell us about the topics you're exploring in your films, and also if now you're developing longer formats, or what are you up to now?
Yeah, so basically I started making character pieces. So I would just like talk about, I wanted to make documentaries about people who did something interesting. So that's kind of how I ended up working with Lawrence Cheney, who is now the drag queen on the UK's Drag Race. And I made like a wide range of character pieces. So for example, one of them was, oh God, I can't remember his first name, but he was a young man who was just out of prison and was trying to like re-enter society, and he was working for this restaurant, trying to become a chef. I made a documentary about a Syrian refugee who had an insane journey coming to Scotland. Some about like different migrant people who were like not necessarily migrants, immigrants in Scotland. So that's kind of how I got interested in like more like the diverse side of the population, I guess. I'm trying to like just work more and more with diverse people. And that's how I started getting interested into the Roma community in Scotland, because there's like a big community in Glasgow, and I am Romanian, so some of them are Romanian, and I kind of had an in, and this was a difficult in for other people, for other filmmakers, because the community tends to be a little bit closed off, because the negative attention they've had from the media before has kind of put them off from working with the media. So I wanted to make a video, not video, like a film about just the cultural side of things, because I feel like there was so much negative attention and so much, like the media was so focused on what has happened that wasn't so great, and that was like nobody was talking about, you know, their culture and their language and all these things. So that's kind of how I came up with it just kind of started to basically form in my head this documentary that eventually was a long form documentary about the Roma community in Glasgow. I then went on and sent a very bold email to Louise, and I was like, I want to make this, and she was really keen, and we started working together on a proper pitch.
I'm not going to listen to a BBC social.
Sorry, Luna, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself. So Camelia, you were talking about Louise Thornton, who used to be the go-to person for talent at the BBC, and I think now she's been replaced officially by Steve Allen. So if you're looking for the talent person at the BBC, it's Steve Allen now. We have a question from Anna, who's asking, and I suppose it's for all of you really, do you have any tips of what to include in your pitch on the application form?
I can try, or Anthony, if you'd like to take this one.
You go first.
So I would say, like, I think as far as so if she means like the application form for submission, or the application form for a for yourself, as in like to get notified, to get noticed by the social. I would say just like be honest about the experience that you want to get from the social as a platform, and just be also open, like, because as I said, in my case, I never considered documentaries, but Anna did for me, and that really was like such a good fit for me at the end of the day. So be honest about what you want to do, but also be open to suggestions, and just include any links to your best work. I would say, even if you're an amateur, just the best short that you made, the best piece of content, and I'm sure that they will get back to you. I feel like the people that I have kind of brought on board, I guess, as contributors to the social, they all have been contacted by the social once they applied. And so I think that you guys have been really, really on it on that front.
Yeah, like I would say that, yeah, exactly what Camelia was saying. Just try and share some stuff. Like we're not looking for people that have got like tens of thousands of followers or like hundreds of views on videos. We're just looking for people that are interested. Sharing things you've made is great. Sharing a number of things you've made is good, because it shows that you've got the drive and you're willing to keep going at it. Like a lot of the thing is, so in the early days we had people getting in touch going, oh, I've had 1 million views on this, and it was just like a viral kind of fluke. It wasn't a beautifully crafted thing, and we kind of tried working with these people to see if we could develop something up. But really what we're looking for is not that. We're looking for people that are just genuinely passionate about telling stories, about uncovering untold stories, and shaping them into a way that will connect with other people. So we're looking for stuff, links that just demonstrate that they're willing to work at their craft, and like it doesn't need to be really polished. The whole thing is it's a development journey. So if we can see that somebody's got passion and drive and is willing to do it, we know that the first video might be a bit rough around the edges, but the second one will hopefully be a tiny little bit better, and the next one will be a little bit better from that, and then hopefully they'll go on a journey. And that's really the goal, to just try and improve each time. It's about doing it again and again and again, and people, like, if people are wanting to get involved and maybe think that they're not ready yet or whatever, I would just say, like, set up a channel on whatever platform you want and just start making stuff. Just set a goal, say I'm going to make a film every day this week, and some of them might not work. That's fine. It's all part of the learning process. And the good thing about when you get involved with the social is you get paired up with producers and researchers who can help point out some of the things. I think when you're working on your own, you can kind of make a video and share it with your friends and family, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's brilliant! That's amazing! Well done, you!" That's great to get positive feedback, but it's maybe not as constructive as you might need to be able to say, you know, that's good, but this bit here is a bit weak, and it might be better if you took that out. And this bit here, if you put that in the beginning, it would capture people's attention faster and draw them through the story. And so there's lots of feedback that they can do, and can hopefully, like Bircan was saying, like, you can help kind of school you a little bit and help you, give you the tools to be able to tell stories and to be able to make sure it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it has drive through it, and it's got pace that will keep people engaged, and it will make people stay to the end to get the story. So we can help with that sort of structure, and being able to put together a treatment and put together a script if necessary. So all of those kind of bits that go in, which will hopefully be useful, like if people go on to want to pitch documentary ideas like hour-long docs or whatever, it's the same principles, even for the shorts.
And I've got a question for Maureen. What is the average length for the projects you're looking for?
we don't really have an average length, to be honest. Like I kind of get asked that question a lot, and I usually say something kind of trite like, as soon as it stops being good, it's too long. So some stories can be told really quickly. Some stories can be need to be a bit longer. Sometimes you can have various levels of a story, so you kind of scratch the surface, and that can then be used. And we've had that in the past where we've done a short piece about somebody or something, and then actually said, well, you know, there's more in that. Let's do something a bit longer and develop that. I would say probably, if we're talking rough rule of thumb, like 3-4 minutes is a kind of rough guide to being able to tell a decent story that's going to kind of have enough in it to engage people. But then obviously we then develop through longer pieces that might be 15 minutes and sit on iPlayer, or half hours, or and then other parts of the BBC we can pass on to do longer. So it really depends on the story, how you tell it. But I think for the audience that we're trying to attract, for that younger 18 to 34 audience, time is precious. Like, they are being bombarded with media on a daily basis, and every device, every platform is just trying to grab their attention. So what we kind of have to do is think about ways to engage them early on and to keep them engaged with the piece. So the pacing of it, and we've found roughly around that 3-minute mark is quite a good length that people will kind of stay through. That's not saying that young people have all got tiny attention spans. That's not true. Like, they can go off and watch days worth of box sets and stuff. It's just about on the go. That's sort of the way that people are consuming their media, more on the go while they're moving around, streaming on phones and things. That 3-minute mark is around about roughly, and that's not any revelation that we've come up with. Pop songs have been 3 minutes long since the 60s for a reason. So that's our kind of rough rule.
Thank you. I have a question, and I suppose it's for you, Bircan and Camelia, but also you, Anthony. So the social is a digital platform, and you are dealing with subjects that are quite sensitive at times. And I was wondering, when you have a film broadcast on television, you have quite a lot of time to develop it and make sure that all the safeguardings are in place. When you go on a digital platform, it feels like there is a layer of protection that has been removed, and depending on the subject you choose to explore, you might be exposed. You as a filmmaker might be exposed to quite wild reaction, and your characters as well. So did you have any was that part of your thought process when you started thinking about ideas to pitch, and how did you handle that? Bircan, maybe?
Yeah. So when there are different ways to not pitch, but as Anthony said, it's like commission based. So you have to let the BBC Social know that you want to work on this. And that's always tricky, because when I started, I was like, I first want to talk to people and talk about my intention. Then let the BBC Social know that I would like to make it, because I think it's an important process. And I should be really clear about why I want to make this film, this piece. So for me, everyone got their different, I think, way to approach this. But for me, because I have lots of ethical questions about what I was doing, I always approached the people that would like to make films about first, and told them, okay, this is my idea. I want to make this film because, and I told my own reasons. And I'm not sure if they will accept this idea, but I would like to make it with you, and I will pitch if you're also up to it. So that's how I deal with the process. But it doesn't have to be like that. For me, it's even though it's like a digital 2-3 minutes pieces, it's important because people trust you. And no matter what you're telling, like it's important that you make that story with them, and they they trust you because you're their connection between the BBC and, you know, so I'm always trying to first build this trust relationship and clearly explain why I want to make this film. And also when I start pitching about the idea or writing about the idea, tell the BBC why I want to make this film and how. And I think this is important. Yes, as you said, Flor, it's a very short process, but we shouldn't, and the social has not basically deadlines, so it's a good thing to, I don't know, maybe for some pieces, but for me, it wasn't really deadline based. So I had enough time to like build this trust relationship and conversation. And after I made this piece, I also make sure that I still keep contact with these people, because it's not just one-time relationship. I think is important. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
I would have a story for this. Unfortunately, it started off bad, but like it's been resolved. But basically, when I made my film about Salih is a Syrian refugee, and we didn't really, I guess, expect this. I didn't, it was my fault. I didn't think of this, but basically once we put the film out, it went viral, and Salih was getting a lot of comments. So obviously with the comments that were positive, which is like the majority of them, probably like 99%. Also because I think you guys at the social have like moderators. So there were people deleting the comments and stuff, but because it was going so fast, deleting the negative comments, I meant to say, but because it was going so fast, there were still some that were, you know, kind of like slipping through. And at one point, Salih was responding to them because it didn't occur to me to tell him, don't get involved in the comments, don't respond to these. And I think that is probably easy for me to do because I am used to it. So I never engaged with the comments, and especially with the negative comments, because like I didn't want my personal Facebook to be, you know, bombarded with messages and stuff like that. But Salih, obviously this was his first experience being in the media, so it was different for him. And basically I think he was getting a little bit upset because there were comments that were, you know, attacking him as a person. And, you know, there were comments that were saying things like, oh, why are you moving to Britain? Go back to your country, that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think it was a bad idea to respond to those comments because it was just like inflaming them. So there is indeed, as you said, Flor, this like level of exposure that maybe you don't get as much with television per se, because in television, you know, unless there's a clip that goes on social, there is no comment section where you just like engage with the commenters. So unless somebody just sees the people on the telly on the street and they say something, they're not as exposed to these things. So that was like kind of a revealing situation to deal with, because we didn't, none of us expected that would happen. But yeah, eventually Salih changed his like Facebook name, and because he was getting some messages, and like I think the social did a great job of moderating the comments. I think it's just because of the level of attention that video got initially, that some of them were just kind of you know, it was hard to moderate, basically. I think that's what the issue was. But just to let everyone know, Salih is completely fine. I've been in touch with him recently, and but this was a few years ago anyway, so we're well past it. But it was an eye-opening experience, because it definitely just like made me realize that I have to be very clear with the people that I put on television, with the people that I put on social media, whatever. I have to make it clear to them that this is going to come with some benefits and maybe, you know, some attention that might not be as positive. So they have to not engage, I guess, with those kind of comments, just to keep their privacy a bit more protected.
Yeah, I would just add, like, we kind of take the safeguarding of our contributors very seriously. It's something we kind of work with people before, during, and after. So if videos do blow up, then the producer will be in touch with the filmmaker and try to kind of make sure that they're okay and that everything's fine. So as we're saying, we do moderate the comments. So we moderate if anyone kind of crosses the line. So people can come on and say they don't like the piece. We don't kind of just like whitewash and make sure that it's all positive and kind of flowers and loveliness. Like if somebody says that they don't like it, that's fair comment. And we also work with the filmmakers to help them, because a lot of the filmmakers are young or at the beginnings of their career, and that can feel quite if you get out your first video on the BBC and somebody comes back and says this is rubbish, so that can affect you. So what we kind of try and work with people is to say, like, these are just random strangers on the internet, and some people on the internet are just, if like, no happy person just sits and says horrible things about strangers. So usually people that are trolls have got stuff going on themselves, and you shouldn't take it. It's hard, but you shouldn't take it personally. And if people have opinions, sometimes people will just say horrible things for the horrible thing's sake, but maybe sometimes some people will have constructive criticism, and it's worth listening to that and taking that on board and hopefully developing through. But our producers will work and be in contact with the filmmakers throughout this process and help them navigate through those things so that they can just ignore those horrible things and focus on the constructive things. But yeah, it's something we spend a lot of time with. When we have videos that break out and become viral, I would say probably the majority of the work is then safeguarding the contributors and safeguarding the filmmakers for the next period, while that rides the wave of popularity across the internet for that period.
I actually got a positive story about this exposure. After I made the piece about the wheelchair user in Edinburgh, it also kind of went viral, and someone from Edinburgh Council reached them and wanted to like talk about their problems. So yeah, also there could be that kind of positive stories too. But yeah.
Yeah, we did a piece about a homeless person, and somebody set up a crowdfunder and got them a hotel room and everything. So that's not we're not a kind of campaigning platform or anything. That's not what we're kind of aiming to do. But sometimes these things happen and out in the public, and obviously we're kind of creating it. And I think that it's important for the filmmakers and contributors to realise that being on the BBC is different from just being on a private YouTube channel. There will be much more exposure, there will be media, there will be people that aren't necessarily kind of their friends group or think the same way as them that will be exposed to the piece. So you just have to kind of help them realise, and if as we hope they go on to have careers in the media, then that's all good learning and good training as well for the future.
Thank you. So I think we have about 10 minutes left, and so plenty of time for questions if you have any. We have a question from Marens. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Wondering if there is a certain topic BBC Social would like to cover more.
There's probably loads, but I think what we try to do is try to work with our contributors to find out what they're interested in, because our audience know what will resonate with other audience members. So we try to leave it as open as possible. At the moment, we're obviously thinking ahead. We're thinking about the COP26 conference that's coming to Scotland in November. So we're thinking about climate and how can we tell the climate story in an engaging way that's going to be less sort of abstract. Like the climate crisis is a big thing that affects the entire planet, and it can feel a bit it's not very tangible for young audiences a lot of the time, because you feel kind of helpless and you feel like you can't make any change. So what we're doing is trying to find out how we can connect that story with people and how we can tell that story in a different way. Another bit of research has shown that a lot of the people involved in telling the climate story might become a kind of homogenous group. So we want to try and make sure that there's diverse voices coming through that from different communities as well. Really, it's hard to pick one. We're just interested in good stories that maybe haven't been told before. So if you've got somebody who's got a really interesting story and you think, I've never heard somebody from that background or somebody talking about that subject, then that's the bit that will probably get us interested in. As well as moving contributors through into TV and podcasts and all these various things. We do a lot of work with the BBC homepage. The BBC homepage gets millions of views every day. So we create articles around certain films. And the stories, obviously, they're always interested in new stories. So just based on that point about untold stories, unheard voices, those sorts of things, we're always really keen to give them a platform. Like I said earlier, the BBC is duty bound to have universal appeal. So if there's one person out there that watches something and says, God, that's me, and I've never seen that represented on the BBC or the media before, then that's a win as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks. And Maren said her follow-up question saying, oh, can we still make content about COVID and the lockdown, or is that too late?
No, I think, again, just based on what I was saying there, it's about the angle you take. It's about telling a story that's not been heard lots of times before, or it's telling that story in a different way or from a different perspective. So I think that's the kind of key that we're looking for, something that's going to make somebody feel like they've seen something new.
Can I just ask a wee question? I see there is actually another one popped up there, but I was just wondering about when it comes to equipment, so camera equipment, sound equipment, is it expected that if someone goes to the lengths of actually pitching something via the website that they're going to have all the equipment, or do you ever say, okay, actually we can help you with that, or how does that work?
No, and I don't feel free to pitch in, Camelia and Bircan, but I would say that the best equipment's the stuff you've got. Like we do a lot of work with people, just how can you tell a story on a mobile phone? How can you, whatever sort of kit you have, you can tell stories with. So we can, in the past, we've had people writing articles because they didn't have the filmmaking skills right on. We've had people doing illustrations and all sorts of different things, but kit-wise, no, it's whatever you've got. And then obviously we've had people that have come shooting on mobile phones. In fact, there's people that are doing reports on the BBC News on a daily, weekly basis, just using mobile phones just now. It's about how you use them. And there are certain bits of kit that we can loan out. If people are struggling with sound, we can give them a loan of a little tie mic or whatever. But the idea is that we will then say, right, here's a link to a few different bits of kit that you can get. And some people then maybe channel the fees that they get from doing things with the social into buying little bits of kit. And again, it's that sort of iterative process that if it sounds just 10% better on the second one than the first one, good. And then hopefully we kind of carry through. And lighting, we can use, it might just be as simple as saying, like, try using natural light, try situating yourself in a different way. Or there's little LEDs you can get for like 20 quid that might make a difference. And it's about kind of combining the expertise and know-how and a little bit of help along the way, just to again try to make the best piece. We've had pieces that went on and had millions of views, which were just hideously out of focus and things, but it was just a really good piece. And the audience didn't actually care that it was out of focus. They connected enough with the content to be able to see past that. Obviously, we don't encourage people to do things out of focus, and we try and avoid that. And that's one of the things that we can help develop, but it shouldn't stop you.
Sorry, Flor.
No, go ahead, Bircan.
That's just a short thing. There's also a closed Facebook group for contributors that people keep asking like technical questions, and sometimes they help each other. I think it's also nice platform that you can chat with other contributors too.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's one of the things that we try to foster as a sort of community of people. So like we have get-togethers and people will come together, and then you might like not pre-COVID, you would have a glass of wine and a chat or a beer and just kind of start to say like, I loved that video you did. How did you do that? And then we've had lots of collaborations where people might be on-screen talent and collaborating with somebody who's a filmmaker, or we might have two filmmakers saying like, I love the films you make about X. Oh, I know somebody that does this, and just try and bring people together. Like if we have so we've now, I said, we're over 580 people. So we've got 580 young filmmakers, or not all young, but we've got new talent. And that's a brilliant thing to be able to tap into and to help develop, and to be able to kind of set out into the world to hopefully tell stories that need to be told.
One good point you said there, Anthony, just reminded me of the fact that I worked with Lauren. Lauren is a contributor, but she's more like a talent. She's more like a comedian. And Lauren didn't have camera skills, and she also didn't have the equipment. So I came on as the filmmaker, and she was the talent. So I was filming it and editing and doing all that stuff with my own equipment, and she just did the talent. And basically she had the script and she was the person on camera, and that was something that you guys were really receptive to, and it was great to work that way, because she wasn't wasting time on things that she didn't know how to do at all, and she was just focused on her comedy and her scripts and stuff, and I was just helping with the technical side, and that was really actually quite cool.
So I think we have time for one last question, which has already appeared in the chat. And you touched on this, Bircan, a little bit earlier, saying that you didn't really have a deadline to deliver the film, which gave you the opportunity to really do things your way. But what is the typical turnaround time for a project? So from the time you have a chat with a filmmaker and you agree on an idea until the delivery, what would you say? How long?
Again, it's difficult there isn't really one, because it depends. Some people are doing this alongside their day job. Some people are maybe taking a year out and just want to do this. Some people might start on an idea and change that idea. I think we've had the fastest one, I think, was an hour and 10 minutes. We have a daily meeting where we come up with ideas. We put it out to our group of filmmakers, and within an hour and 10 minutes, it went from the idea to being published on a BBC platform. But other ones might be 6 months, because there's things come up in people's lives and they go off and they want to build a relationship up with somebody over a period of time. So we don't have any, like, we are completely aware that all of the people that work with us have completely different backgrounds and things going on in their life. So we don't kind of set rules on people. The one thing I would say, that if you do get to a situation with a producer and you set a deadline, then I think it's good training for the rest of your career to meet those deadlines, or at least communicate properly about if you're not going to. But we don't have time scales that we sort of impose on people as such.
Flor, if I may add on this, I think it's amazing that the BBC The Social doesn't push you to do certain things, but on the other hand, you need to be very proactive, which means nobody's going to tell you like, oh, can you do this and can you do that? It's up to you to come with ideas, and I think it gives you so much freedom. At least like for me, it works so well, because it means I can talk to my producer and say, I want to do this, I have this idea, what do you think? And also it's not like a pitch, it's not a scary pitch, it's more like an email that you send to your producer and you have a conversation, and then she or he says, yeah, that sounds great, like how can you develop that, and then you go on and shoot. So you have also the certainty that when you go out to shoot, you know that you're doing that for BBC. It's not like you're investing your time to do something that might not get published, and I think that that's really helpful. So yeah, I just wanted to add on that. So please don't feel scared that it's not a real pitch, it's just a conversation.
And Julia is a great example of somebody who's come through The Social and then went on to do stuff on the channel, and I think you come in and do kind of short contracts with the BBC as well. So we try, once we get your hooks into talented people, we try and make sure that we can create opportunities for them as well.